Well, here we are. Glory and honor to the Father Yahweh, the creator of heaven and earth. I'm trying to get this straight. The creator of heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and Messiah Yahweh Shai, the only begotten Son of the Father, who is the high priest, who is the prophet, who is the sacrifice for sin, and as the Father has given him, the soon returning King of planet Earth. Glory and honor to Father Yahweh, and glory and honor to Messiah Yahweh Shai. Greetings to the 12 awakening tribes of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Greetings to the brothers and sisters that are saved through the blood of the Messiah, being grafted in, though not of the bloodline, as well as the bloodline. This, as you can see, this form is a little different because my computer's been really acting up, not giving me. I now see Castle King, I see Akawan Banya, and I'm seeing, Lion the Judah Lonnie, I'm seeing Brother Baldy. I wasn't seeing anybody for it's been about 2 weeks, maybe a little over to that. Haven't seen anybody before we even came to Columbia. So here we are in Columbia, and then, of course, the same thing. Then yesterday, the internet for the hotel has been acting up. And y'all know what that's all about. Hey, Sister Odyssey, y'all know what that's all about. So it's been all kind of crazy. So my wife suggested even yesterday, she said, you need to do this on your phone. And I usually don't do it on my phone, but I said, I basically didn't have much of a choice. So y'all seeing me from the phone, I apologize if it's a little different. But I'm glad I could see all of y'all today. So praise the Most High. Yeah, we've been in Colombia. We have seen the poorest of the poor in Medellin, and we have, we're looking in like more middle class areas. Looking at that last couple of days. We really like it here. We're praying on the Most High to show us what His desires and what His want is for us, what His will is for us. But man, praise the Most High. So we really do like the vibe. We like the people. The northern tribes are here along with Judah. It's all good. So, we just want to make sure, we want to see, we're going to pray. We still want to go visit another country, looking to visit Ecuador in 2026, and then pray and see if the Most High would have us come to Colombia, Ecuador, or see none of the above, right? So He'll show us, and we're leading and ask for your prayers in that. But we really do like it here in Ecuador. The vibe is nice. The food is, it's not just delicious. It is good, no doubt. Generally in the States, when I go to a place to get a steak, I generally have to add salt to it. Generally if I get steak or if I get chicken breast from a restaurant, I got to add salt to it. It's definitely not like that. We've been at one sister's house where she basically killed her own chicken and cooked it for us. We've been at a restaurant in the basically the hood. We went to a restaurant today in a hotel, more fancy restaurant, and we went to another restaurant in the middle class area. And all of the restaurants, you don't need to add nothing to the food. It was all good. Not only that, in Ecuador, they're not allowed to use additives. They're not allowed to use GMO. They're not allowed to use any preservatives in their food. And if they use excess sodium or if they use processed sugar, they have to put it on the label that we have excess sodium and processed sugar in this product. So that what you're normally eating, for example, none of the beef or the chicken is like, they don't really sell organic meat because everything is locally grown grass. They don't believe in anything but grass fed. They don't stuff the cows. You can see the cows that you eat is out here, and they're all kind of skinny looking. And the reason they are is because they're not being stuffed with chemicals and preservatives and stuff they're not supposed to naturally eat before they are killed and brought to market. So it's a completely different vibe. And the food is off the chain. We haven't been able to really taste the fruit because of our own health conditions. But my wife and I both feel very strongly like if we were to move here after about a year, we probably could have the fruit. But for now, we won't. But it's really off the chain. It's good. And not only that, we just found some of the laws, like all we're going to talk about tonight we're going to go into prophecy. Wednesday night, now we're doing this Thursday, which normally our Wednesday night, Raw Wednesdays, is Bible prophecy and current events. And we're going to do that tonight in a major way. Now, I want to tell you, all governments on earth are corrupt because our Satan runs this earth. So all governments are corrupt, but they're not all the same. And if I didn't know that before, I learned it when I came to Colombia. So here, the poor live in, basically, there's these, they're makeshift houses with tin roofs mostly, and they put together, and if a person loses their house, let's say it collapses because, like, there was a big earthquake here yesterday, let's say it collapsed because of the earthquake, the government will provide you another house. Isn't that something? Or if your house is found to be in a flood area, or which is not many of them here, but some area that's dangerous, and you live there, they will take you out and provide you another home. I think in all, now here in Medellin, there are 2.4 million people. Now we've been through the poorest area, we've been through downtown Medellin, we've been through outskirts. We haven't been to the really rich area. We're not interested in going there, but I mean, we just didn't have time to see it anyway. But we have seen thousands and thousands of people. And in all the thousands of people we saw, we only saw 2 homeless people. Only 2. One was sleeping out in the street there's this place called El Poblado where there's a lot of white people Caucasians coming there. But in El Poblado, because a lot of Caucasians come there, in one of their parks, prostitutes come there. So we went through this park, and I mean, it was chock full of prostitutes. They were coming up to you, giving you their card. I mean, it was crazy. A lot of them were young, so young that the police, because in Colombia, prostitution is legal, but the police go through to check IDs to make sure nobody's underage. And they go and they walk around where the prostitutes are to see if they find any runaways to stop pimps from recruiting them. We saw it live. We was there yesterday. So they got a lot more going on to help people. Over here, when I'm in the States, if I got to get an annual checkup and I don't have insurance, it's going to cost like $500 or $600. If I want the blood work, if I want, the total package of a checkup, when you go and they take your blood, they take your urine, that's about $500 or $600. Over here, you can get all of that for about $25. Same thing. Okay, same thing. So it's off the chain different over here. And the lady that was showing us around said in Ecuador, medical profession is not about profit. It's about the health of the people. In Ecuador, they believe the healthier they can make the people, the less the people will need drugs. They're not allowed to advertise drugs over here. There's no drug advertisements. Okay. And so we were walking through El Poblado after we left prostitute area, right? We walked into this other area, and this other area is right next to the prostitute area, but it was a completely different vibe. Like there was almost like a border there. And when you crossed it, there was more police because that was the area where no prostitutes could come. It was like real clean and safe, completely different, only like a block or 2 away. And I'm walking with my wife and the homie that brought us here, and there was an outdoor gym, right? There was an outdoor gym. They had a pin-up bar. They had free weights. It's outdoor, free to everybody. And that's like what lady told us, that's common in Ecuador. And she wasn't lying. Every place we went, like every little crevice, there was a gym. And the gyms cost between $10 and $15 a month. And I mean, they had CrossFit gyms, free weight gyms, machines, everything, $10, $15, and everywhere in Ecuador. We went to one small town. There was about, I'd say 20 gyms. We went into a city in the hood where my boy was. Every little corner, every little crevice was a gym. And most of the people, when you walk the street, I would say there's probably, and I'm being real conservative, but I think there's 10% or less obese people most of the people are either just normal looking, like the way we used to look in the United States before we started getting obese because of the food, or they're in shape. So when we saw the outdoor gym, there was this dude. He must have been, I think he might have been no older than 30. And he was on the chin-up bar. And I said, can I do? He said, how many could you do? So the young boy the dude that invited me here, the Hebrew dude that invited me here, he's 37. He said, I bet you can't keep up with me. I think he dropped off at about the number 8. And I stopped at 15 chin-ups because I didn't want to sweat. So I stopped at 15. Everybody's like, oh, I said, I don't feel like sweating in my good clothes. Otherwise, I'd have did 20. So it was all good. We was having fun. And so we still here. Now, tomorrow, we're going to do our regular Friday night Bible study. Tomorrow, we're going to do our regular Friday night Bible study at 9 something like we normally do. The sister that made the chicken for us wanted us to come to her house. That hood trip was really, we was really taking our life in our hands. So I'm half like, I don't want to be presumptuous, but I think we go in there for Shabbat. So on Shabbat, we're going to have our regular morning Bible study. But then he want me to come over there. The sister want us and the brethren want us to come over. He going to interpret, because nobody speaks English. Hardly anybody speaks English. You got to learn Spanish. And so we've been trying to pick it up here and there while we're here. We knew it was going to be the case, but he going to interpret. And he said, he said, prepare a lesson. Now, y'all know that's funny, right? Prepare a lesson. I said, you want me to speak? He said, I want you to teach them a lesson. I said, okay. He talking about prepare. I said, well, okay. Praise the Most High. So we'll do our afternoon Bible study. I'm gonna do it on the phone, and I'm gonna have this on. You know, I don't even know how many people, 5 people, whoever, 10, 100. I don't know who's gonna be, but we're gonna be here at 2:00. And 2:00 in Colombia is the same as 2:00 on the East Coast. So if y'all in Florida, like, it's still 2:00, and it's still the time difference is the same, like Akawan Banya, but Lonnie's in like South Carolina. It's still the same time, so it's not really, there's no difference in the time. So 2:00 here will be 2:00 where you are. Okay, so 2:00, that's the plan. He told me he wanted us there at 2:00. So okay, here we go. Praise the Most High. So today, let's look at Isaiah chapter 47. Yesterday, when we was going to do the Bible study, I had something in my spirit, but it wasn't clear. But I was going to go forward anyway, because Most High would have brought me something. But today, so the delay happened. Then all of a sudden today, boom, boom, Most High was just showing me. So here we go. Okay. We'll talk this here lesson tonight. This raw Hebrew lesson tonight is the fall of Babylon in real time. Okay. First, let's look at Isaiah chapter 47. Isaiah chapter 47. I'm going to start in verse 1. Isaiah chapter 47. And we're going to go through this. And look, we're going to go through. Obviously, if I'm talking about current events in Bible prophecy, right, we got to look at Bible prophecy. Does that make sense, y'all? I mean, I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying? So if I'm talking about current events in Bible prophecy, we got to go over Bible prophecy. So tonight we're going to go over Bible prophecy in terms of the current events that's taking place. All right. So what we're talking about is the fall of Babylon in real time. This is the beginning of the fall of Babylon we're seeing right now. Most people will not recognize it. And the reason they didn't is because, for example, Noah, we know, was told 120 years before the flood to start preaching about a flood. And the Bible describes the condition of society at that time. The Bible says the man was corrupt. The world was filled with violence. Remember, it was so all the signs of the end of that age were there. Enoch had already been preaching before he was translated that Yahweh was going to come with 10,000s of his saints and execute judgment. Well, that was already in place in terms of the prophecies that those brethren knew leading up to the destruction, which was the flood. So then Noah was preparing the flood while all of that, preparing for the flood for his family while all that happened. So when it was time, Noah was prepared because the Most High had showed him. And he got the ark prepared. The animals came. He was on board, and he didn't even close the door. The Most High had him prepare the ark, told him to get in with the animals, and the Most High closed the door. And it was 7 days after that door was closed before the flood came. And although all of the violence and corruption was happening in front of all the populace of planet Earth, nobody was expecting anything different to take place. That's the key here. That's the key here. And when we go over what's happening right now, especially recently, we're going to talk about it recently, the recent events pretty much this week, you'll understand what I mean. But let's go to Isaiah 47. I'm going to begin at verse 1. And I'm actually going to read down to verse 15, but we're going to take it piece by piece. And we got a lot of scripture to go through, as we always do. You know, y'all can bear witness. We don't just go one scripture and call it a day and try to extrapolate off that one scripture. That's a Christianity thing. We don't do that. We believe what the Bible teaches us, that and the Messiah taught us, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. So we seek always to have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 witnesses. And when we say that, we're talking about different prophets, not all Paul's writings, and that's their witnesses. No, Paul, Moses, Zechariah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. We're going to have a lot of witnesses to what we're talking about here. Okay. So let's begin at verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust, verse 1 of Isaiah 47. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. So now the Most High is talking to Babylon. Remember that, because we're going to talk more about Babylon. The system we're now in is Babylon. We'll show you these things from the scriptures. But this conversation, the Most High is talking to Babylon. Okay? Verse 2. Take the millstones and grind meal. Uncover thy locks. Make bare the leg. Uncover the thigh. Pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered. Yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. Okay. So now Babylon was sitting as somebody on a throne, but he's saying you're going to become a common worker. You're going to become a working class. And he said, I'm going to take vengeance on you, Babylon. Why? Let's keep reading. Verse 4. As for our Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. So who are he taking vengeance on behalf of? Israel. Behalf of Israel. And we're not talking about the Amalekites in the Middle East. We're talking about the bloodline descendants of transatlantic slave trade, Israel. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Okay, verse 5. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted my inheritance and given them into thine hands. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. So Babylon shows no mercy on the Hebrews. For all of these deluded ones out here that's trusting the government and trusting so-called leaders, they show the Hebrews no mercy. You must understand that everything that is done in the earth today is in part done to destroy us. Now, some people are going to think I'm crazy, but if you're reading this Bible, by the way, this King James, my wife bought me this one. Praise the Most High. I just got my name inscribed on it. I'm still reading my old one until I finish my 23rd reading, and then I'll start on this one. But I told her when we go on vacation, I'll start reading it. She was bugging me. So, when you going to read the Bible I bought for you? So here we are. All right. So verse 7. Babylon. And thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst thou remember the latter end of it. Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. I am. Important. Isn't that something important, right? That's interesting. Babylon says, I am. The Most High says, I am. There can only be one true, a higher. But Babylon said, I am. Okay, let's keep going. And none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. So Babylon has children. Let's keep going. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries and for great abundance of thine enchantments. You don't have to now guess now. You don't need no scientific proof. You don't even need witnesses from man. You just got a witness from the Most High that Babylon uses enchantments and sorcery. Let me make that a little plainer. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And when he says high places, he's not talking about elevation in terms of a mountain. He's talking about high places of the earth in terms of position and power and money. So the people in high places and positions and power and money, which you see all the time, are part of the spiritual wickedness in high places, part of the rulers of this world. And the Bible is telling us they use sorceries and enchantments, which is why he tells us stay away from sorceries and enchantments like Ouija boards and astrology. He tells us to stay away from it because this is what Babylon uses. Verse 10. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. Thou hast said in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. Therefore shall evil come upon thee. Thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. We know suddenly is within shorter now than 7 years. We're past the Day of Atonement for this year. So we know now it was 7 years from then and past the Feast of Tabernacles for this year, 2025. It was 7 years from then. So now we're past it. It's less than 7 years. Stand now in thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be, thou shalt be able to profit. If so be, thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble. The fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. This is almost, in many ways, it's the duplication of Revelation 18. And Revelation 18, of course, is talking about Babylon. Let's look at that second witness real quick. Revelation 18. I could go to Jeremiah chapter 51, but we got so much to cover today. Let's take the two witnesses on this one. So here, Revelation chapter 18 and verse 1, I'm going to read from verse 1 to 5 because this is the same. Now, Isaiah is Isaiah the prophet. That's one witness. Revelation is John the Revelator. This is the second witness. Okay, here, Revelation chapter 18 from 1 to 5. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh hath remembered her iniquity. See, this is a prophecy against Babylon, as Isaiah was a prophecy against Babylon. It's the same prophecy. I could also, again, for your own edification, I recommend when you get a chance, read Jeremiah chapter 51, and you'll get a third witness. So we're talking about Isaiah, John, and Jeremiah. Mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. Now, let's talk about some current events. This week, well, put it this way. CNN is always lying to us. In fact, all media is always lying to us. So, especially this is true, especially in the United States of America. Always lying to you. So when you're looking at media, any media in the United States, you must first come to the basic understanding that they're lying to you. So then you must ask yourself a question, why are they lying? What are they trying to hide? And then see behind the lie, you will find the truth. Okay? Now, CNN has been hammering Donald Trump recently. Now, Donald Trump does not like CNN hammering him. Donald Trump doesn't like anybody that tells him anything that's negative about himself because he is a liar. So CNN is a liar and Trump is a liar. And this is the thing about the media and about politics. We've talked about this before. News is no longer reporting. Reporting is I see an event and I'm telling you about the event. That's reporting, right? So if somebody was stealing the car and I saw them stealing the car and I bear witness, I know somebody who owns that car. This man is stealing the car, broke the window, he's jumping in. I can bear witness to that. I'm reporting this incident firsthand that I saw. That's not news anymore. News has to have a narrative. And the narrative that they project is teaching the person receiving it what to believe, what to think. That's what media does. So that CNN has a narrative, Fox News has a narrative, but they're different narratives. So what happens when you have opposite narratives? Well, if you have opposite narratives, then you'll pick one, the one you like. The Bible calls it itching ears. So if you like the Fox News narrative and you turn on CNN, you're not going to like it because it's opposite of your narrative that you want to hear. So you'll turn it off. But if you like the CNN narrative and you listen to Fox News, you're going to turn it off because you're not going to like it. It's a different narrative. Both of them are supposed to be reporting news. Okay. So CNN, if they reported the stolen car, CNN would say, because the Trump administration cut back on the police force, there was nobody around to stop that car from being stolen. Fox News would say that was an illegal immigrant, a black man he was a black man from Somalia. He stole that car. If we get rid of Somalians, we can cut the car problem of theft out. See? So that's the two narratives. Trump is saying, I don't like the CNN narrative. So I'd like somebody to buy CNN. So he called his billionaire buddies and they want to put a bid in on CNN. Now, why? Because he wants to have somebody that's favorable to him to create a new narrative at CNN. So now you have people getting narratives and you have people trying to control narratives. Now, what is that for? Because if you can control the narrative, you can control the suckers, the people that believe them. So people are watching this and they understanding what I just said. And nobody's doing anything about it. So that now we are willingly allowing narratives to be brought forth and then trying to get people with power and money to choose the narratives for us. That's a sign of the end. That means people have now received and accepted lies. The people that listen and believe in the liberal side are receiving and accepting lies. Your CNNs, your MS Now, MSNBC, and then people that want the conservative side are receiving lies. Your Fox News, right? Your News Nation. So you're receiving lies of narratives, neither of which is being accepted by the truth of the word of the Most High. The word of the Most High tells us that at the end, people will receive lies and the Most High will send them strong delusion to believe the lies. The strong delusion comes in the form of religion. We'll talk more about that. So, also, the current administration decided yesterday to take a Venezuelan oil cargo ship. Just take it. There was no provocation. The Venezuelans broke no laws. But the United States decided we're taking it because we can. So you're combining lies and arrogance. The current president said that Somalia and Ethiopia are shithole countries. Shithole countries. And Somalians are ruining Minnesota. Ever since then, Somalians have been under attack by Trump tards in Minnesota. People tripping, coming out because their president gave them permission. Come out their face at the Somalian people. Somalians have Hebrews among them. Bloodline. If you didn't know before, now you do. Because look what happened. But wait a minute, it goes further. 2 weeks ago, a woman that was described by another sister in Congress as bleach blonde, butch body. Basically, a child of Yafet from Georgia. She was a strong advocate of the current president. So everything he said was right. She actually said that. Now, her followers, her representation, her constituents in Georgia, were hollering because they're suffering because their healthcare costs are doubling and tripling and they can't afford it because the current administration is cutting back on the subsidies that used to come from the Obama administration. Not that I'm into rainbows, but you hear what I'm saying. So she was critical of Donald Trump, the man she supports. And she said, I still support him. He called her a traitor. Now she on TV whining because Trump followers are giving her death threats multiple times, every death threats. So now we're seeing the corruption, the brainwashing, the rage, the arrogance, and the greed. Downfall in real time. Let's go into some Bible prophecy. Y'all remember Daniel chapter 2. Let's look at Daniel chapter 2, the image, right? Daniel chapter 2, a great image that Nebuchadnezzar the king saw, that Daniel also saw and was given the interpretation of the image. He told Nebuchadnezzar what the image was, then he provided the interpretation of the image. So let's see. Let's start at verse 29 of Daniel chapter 2 and go down to verse 35. Daniel chapter 2, verse 29 to verse 35. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. As for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known unto the interpretation to the king, that thou mightest know the thoughts of thine heart. Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee. The form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breasts and his arms of silver, and his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest that a stone was cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Now, this image was one. It was one image with different metals in it. I want to make sure y'all caught that part because this is going to be important for what we're talking about tonight. So it was one image with different metals, and then at the bottom it had iron and clay, right? So you had one image with 4 different metals, and then there was iron with the 4th metal, which is iron and clay, the 4th metal, iron and clay at the bottom. Okay. Then a stone hits it, destroys the whole image. It all collapses and it vanishes. And the stone becomes a great mountain that fills the whole earth. So now he's going to interpret this for Nebuchadnezzar, verse 36. I'm going to read from verse 36 down to verse 44. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art the king of kings, for the Most High of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. Wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven, hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So wait. So Babylon was Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. So Babylon, the head of gold of the statue. The statue is one. So let me just say something to you right now. You ready? Are you ready? The statue, the head is gold. The head is Babylon. Every metal that comes next, which are 3 others, are all part of Babylon. They're their own kingdoms, but the head is Babylon, which is why you can say Babylon then and you can say Babylon now, because it's all the same image. Y'all got me? Now we're in the iron part of the image now, but it's one body. So the whole body, no matter the silver, the brass, the iron, it's still Babylon. Why? Because it's still under the same system, controlled by the same devil. Okay? All under the same system, controlled by the same devil, which is why you can call Babylon, Babylon then, of course. But you still, as Revelation showed us, you talked about Babylon in Isaiah 47, and we talk about Babylon in Revelation 18. In the beginning and the end, still Babylon. Okay? One image. Very important as we go forward. Okay? Okay, now, Verse 39. After thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and the third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. So in each metal is, if you notice, declining in value. So gold is the most valuable. Then came silver. Then even to this day, the next valuable, right? Gold is still more valuable than silver. Then came brass, less valuable than gold or silver. Okay, it gets declining in value, which means there's some sort of decline with each kingdom, some sort of decline. Let's keep reading. Verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall break it in pieces and bruise. So the fourth one is more ruthless, more hard, less merciful than the ones before it. Less value, that is lower in moral standards, lower in righteousness, lower in truth. Just lower than all before it. And if you notice, that's the last one. Let's keep going. Verse 41. Whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. As the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. We'll explain that. And whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. In the days of these kings, notice, in the days of these kings, that is the system of Babylon, in the days of the system of Babylon, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, rulers of the darkness of this world. Babylon, okay? In the days of these kings shall the Most High of heaven set up a kingdom. He's going to set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. The kingdom shall not be left to other people. Now, why would he say other people? Because the people that he's talking about that's going to take the kingdom are Israel. And it's not ever going to be left to other people, because the line of the tribe of Judah will rule the earth forever. The line of the tribe of Judah. Praise the Most High. The kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So the stone represents the kingdom of the Most High. That's not going to be left to other people. It's going to destroy all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now, remember, it's one statue, right? So he said, another kingdom inferior to thee shall come after thee. All right, so Daniel chapter 5 shows that's who that is. So there was an inferior kingdom that took over the earth after Babylon, took over the Babylonian kingdom. Okay, Daniel chapter 5, the writing on the wall. Y'all heard of the writing on the wall. So the King Belshazzar saw some writing on the wall as he was partying with his concubines and his wives, and they was going. But as they praised their gods, they were using the vessels that was in the temple from Jerusalem. Big mistake. So there was some writing on the wall. And so let's take a look at that. This is Daniel chapter 5 from verse 24. Let's read down to verse 31. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this is the writing that was written. This is the writing that was written. Mene, mene, tekal, uparsin. And this is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, Yahweh hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekal, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. That's your next kingdom, Medes and Persians, silver. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. So there was Babylon, then there was Medes and Persians. So the Median Persian Empire was really still Babylon. Okay. Who came next? Let's take a look. Daniel chapter 8. Now we're going to stay in Daniel chapter 8 for a second. Daniel chapter 8. Watch this. So we know Medes and Persians came after Babylon. What came after Medes and Persians? Okay, let's take a look. This is Daniel chapter 8. We're gonna go from chapter 8. We're gonna go from verse 1 down to like verse 14. But before we do that, let's just cut to the chase and see what happened after Medes and Persians, right? So after Medes and Persians, Daniel chapter 8, verse 20 and 21. Daniel chapter 8, verse 20 and 21. And it says, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn between his eyes is the first king. So there was Babylon, Media, Persia, and Greece. That's the order. Why these four? Somebody might ask. Of all the historical kingdoms that ever existed on planet Earth, why is the Bible only talking about these four? What's so special about these four? The Bible tells us in Zechariah chapter 1. Zechariah chapter 1 will come right back to Daniel 8. But Zechariah chapter 1, I told y'all we we're going to be using a lot of scriptures. Make sure either you just take a copy of this video and mark all the scriptures so you can review them for yourself, or just mark them now. Make sure you read your Bible. Start in Genesis and read through to the book of Revelation. And when you get done, read it again. Keep reading it. It's the only thing that's going to inform you of the truth. The only thing. Straight truth, uncut, no chaser. King James Version. Zechariah chapter 1, verse 18 and 19. Zechariah chapter 1, verse 18 and 19. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, four horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Israel, Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Four horns, four empires. And what do they have in common? They laid hands on Israel, literally. So Babylon came into Jerusalem. Medes and the Persians came into Jerusalem. Greece came into Jerusalem. That's what we got so far. Okay? Medes and Persians came into Jerusalem. Greece came into Jerusalem. They took over. Okay, they lived in the fourth empire. Going to say the same thing. They came in Jerusalem, laid hands on Israel, Judah, and Jerusalem. In some cases, leveled Jerusalem and scattered the children of Israel. Now, other heathen would touch us later, absolutely. But those initially scattered us from the promised land. That's what these have in common. Okay, back to Daniel chapter 8 now. Now we know three of the four kingdoms. Well, let's talk about the fourth one. Well, I want to let the Bible open this up for you a little bit, okay? So let's take a look. Daniel chapter 8, beginning at verse 1. I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 9. In the third year of the reign of the king of Belshazzar, by the way, you already know now, Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece. You know that. Right? We just went through that. Babylon, say it with me now. Babylon, Media, Persia, and Greece. Make sure you remember that. It's important. We're covering a lot of territory here. I know we are, but it's important. Praise the Most High so that we know what's coming. That's what prophecy is. The Most High showing his people what's coming. That's what it is. Daniel chapter 8, beginning at verse 1. In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in the vision, and it came to pass, when I saw, that I was at Shushan, in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in the vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had two horns. The two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. And I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Now, we already read verse 20 said, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. So you already know now. The ram is representing Media and Persia. Okay, let's keep going. Daniel chapter 8, verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler. Choler is rage. And he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. And there was none power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Verse 21 says, and the rough goat, the roughneck, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. The first great king of the Greek Empire was called Alexander. So this big horn that hit the Medes and the Persians and took the kingdom was the kingdom of Greece, led by Alexander. That was the first, that was the big horn. And it said, notice it said, that was the first king. There were others to follow. Let's keep reading. Daniel chapter 8, verse 8. And therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong and the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. So the great horn of the Greek Empire, Alexander the Great, was broken. He died. And in his place, four powers, four generals came up and took over the Greek Empire. And they divided it into four: north, south, east, and west. North, south, east, and west. Okay, so the four generals, the leading generals of Alexander the Great, took over his kingdom after he died. Okay, it wasn't his posterity, it was a power trip. So Ptolemy, Seleucus, Cassandra, Seleucus, they took over and they divided the kingdom north, south, east, and west. Okay, verse 9. Out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. The pleasant land represents Israel. So the little horn that came out of one of those four waxed great toward the south. He waxed great toward the east, and the pleasant land was in the west. So he waxed great toward the west, the east, and the south. That's three directions. So therefore, what direction did the little horn come out of? If he waxed great toward the south, toward the east and the west, where did he come from? What direction did he come out? There's only four, and we done already used three. So where he came from? So this little horn that waxed exceeding great came out of the only option left, the north, right? So he come out of the north. So this little horn come out of the north. Okay, so you had the Babylon kingdom, you had the Media Persian kingdom, you had the Greek kingdom, and then you had four kingdoms of the Greek Empire, right? But then this little horn comes out of this fourth one, comes this little horn. He comes out of the fourth one. This little horn out of the north of what was the Greek Empire came this little horn. Well, the Bible's going to describe to us what this little horn's about. So let's read it. So let's read it. This is Daniel chapter 7, beginning at verse 10. I'm going to read from verse 10 down to verse 14. Daniel chapter 7, 10 to 14. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground. and it practiced and prospered. Now, this little horn cast the truth to the ground. The truth is of religious nature. So this little horn is of religious nature coming out of the north, out of that empire that came after the Greeks. Let's keep reading. Verse 13. And I heard one saint, these are two angels, and I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So 2,300 days in Bible prophecy is 2,300 years. And there will be a cleansing of the sanctuary. What sanctuary? The third heaven sanctuary, which the book of Hebrews, which we are studying, or just finished studying, or we're at the end of the study, told us. Okay. Who is that? What is it? Let's see a little bit more about this little horn. This is after the fourth, out of the Greek Empire, the fourth part became this little horn. Verse 23. In the latter time of their kingdom, when transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. So this one is spiritual. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Somebody else is empowering him. Somebody else is giving this little horn power, seat, and great authority. Somebody else is doing it. Wait a minute. Understand. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. He destroys Israelites. This spiritual horn destroys Israelites. Don't forget that. So who was this? Wait. Oh, one more, verse 25. And through his policy, he shall cause craft, that is deceit, that is deception, that is trickery. He shall cause craft, that is sorcery, astrology, enchantments, to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart. And by peace, it comes peaceably, he shall destroy many. He also shall stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. So his end is not coming by human hands. The Most High himself is going to destroy this little horn. So wait a minute. What came after the Greeks then? Let's let Luke tell us. Another witness. We done already went to Daniel. We done already went there. Now we're going to Luke. Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. Luke chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. And I'm going to read verse 1 and 2, and we'll kind of know that. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. So Caesar Augustus made a decree that decreed that the entire planet was going to be taxed. Caesar Augustus was a powerful dude to be able to do that, wouldn't he? I mean, he had to be ruler of the whole earth to be able to say the whole earth is going to be taxed. And everybody then it says, and all went out and all went to be taxed, everyone to his own city. So for him to make a decree and the whole world obeys him, that makes him a world power. Well, what world power was Caesar Augustus the emperor of? Rome. Okay, what do we have so far? The fourth beast, the iron, is Rome. Fourth beast, the iron, is Rome. But it wasn't Caesar Augustus. That's the little horn. Caesar Augustus wasn't no religious figure. Well, let's look at what we have. Do we have a religious figure that came out of Rome? Is there a worldwide religious figure? In fact, let's go back to Daniel 1 second. About that little horn. Daniel talks about not only in chapter 8, but also chapter 7. Watch what he says about the little horn in chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. Watch what it says about this little horn in Daniel chapter 7. And let's see. I'm going to begin at verse 20. Daniel chapter 7, verse 20. I'm going to begin at verse 19, actually. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet, and of the 10 horns that were his head, and of the other, that's the little one, which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Prevailed against the saints that are the bloodline Israelites. Remember, the little horn hates the truth, and he hates the prince of Israel, and he hates the Israelites. Remember that. Until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and tread it down, and break it in pieces. Now, the religious power out of Rome is obvious, right? I mean, we don't have to really guess about that. There's only one worldwide religious power that comes out of Rome, right? I mean, right? That's not hard to ascertain. So we know the Pope and the Vatican is represented there, okay? Now, it says it's in the iron, and the iron's all the way to the end. And it says about the iron that it subdues the whole earth. What is the modus operandi that the power of the Vatican have used to subdue the whole earth and make war with the saints? What is that? Because they made war with the saints and they subdued the whole earth, which means let me put it to you in modernized terms so you might get a clearer picture. Has not Europe colonized most of the earth? Europe. So there are at least, I'm going to say, I'm sure I'm being conservative, but at least 4 or 5 African countries that have been colonized by Europe. Brazil is a colonized nation that used to, in fact, the whole South America used to be Indians. It's been colonized by the Spanish and the Portuguese, correct? In fact, not just south of what is now South America, but also Central America and Mexico, Mexico is now part of North America. North America also includes the United States and Canada. All been colonized. Philippines been colonized. Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, India, Burma, which is Myanmar, Bangladesh, Pakistan, colonized by Europeans. Now, what's the combination of things? What's the general commonality? How all these people conquered? Well, Christopher Columbus, we know he did a lot of it over on this side in the Caribbean, right? All the Caribbean, Christopher Columbus, Boricua, Española, all of them, right? How'd they do that? Christianity. Christopher Columbus was a Christian. Christians came to Africa from Portugal with the Pope's blessing, took the Africans and made Brazil. The Christians came from North America, the Pilgrims, that's what they call themselves, came to West Africa, took Africans and made America. Built it, I should say, built it. French did the same thing, Canada, Haiti, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Cameroon, same thing. So the commonality with all of these places, Australia, New Zealand, is Christianity. So how does the little horn subdue the whole earth? Through Christianity. Somebody might say, what about Islam? Good question. Islam came from Christianity. And Islam is also representing that, which is the clay. If you notice, there was iron mixed with miry clay. It said they shall try to cleave to one another, but they really don't stick. Just like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism don't really get along. All kiss the Pope's ring, though. All. But they don't really get along, do they? I mean, the Ashkenazis, which represent Judaism, are now in the West Bank killing Muslims and Christians right now. They don't really get along. But they're all under the guise of so-called Abrahamic religions, though Abraham invented none of them. Zero. Abraham invented no religion. Abraham was never promised a religion. He was promised land and a nation. You can't have a nation with no land. So he was promised land and a nation for him and his descendants. That's what he was promised, not Judaism, not Islam, and not Christianity. So let's go to Revelation chapter 17 now, because we're talking about Bible prophecy in present day, right? So let's go to Revelation chapter 17. Now that we know who those kingdoms was, let's look Revelation 17, and you'll understand more clearly what this is about. Revelation chapter 17, I'm going to begin, let's see. Well, we know there's a beast, right? So let's look at the beast first, and then we'll go into the interpretation of what we already have found out. Revelation 17, beginning at verse 1 and going down to verse 5. And there came one of the seven angels which had seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore, that sitteth upon many waters, waters representing Gentiles, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So he had a woman on top of a beast. The beast had 7 heads and 10 horns. Verse 4, the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold, precious stones, and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abomination and filthiness of her fornication. Upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery. Remember craft? Mystery. Babylon the Great. See, they're all Babylon. The mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. See? So the whole statue is Babylon. So from the head to the foot, from the gold to the metal to the iron is all Babylon. Now, let's look and see the interpretation of this beast. Okay, let's go to verse 10. Revelation chapter 17, verse 10. Watch this. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen. Now, 5 are fallen. Now remember, even though Nebuchadnezzar doesn't exist anymore and his kingdom of Babylon doesn't exist anymore, his principles of his kingdom are still in the same statute. But he fell, so Babylon fell. The Medes and the Persians fell. And then you had 4 divisions of Greece, remember? So you have, that's 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 of them fell. And out of the north came what? The little horn, which was 6. 5 are fallen, 1 is. So at the time of the writing of this to John, Babylon, Media, Persia, 3 divisions of Greece had all fallen. Then you had one that is. That's the little horn. Rome. You with me so far? Testing 1, 2, 3. The European power that came out of Europe and brought Christianity to attack the saints. Christianity is an attack on the true Hebrews. I know that's hard for you Hebrew Christians, but I'm just giving you the word. So here, now 5 are fallen, 1 is. Now watch this now. You can tell me who this is. So we know that 1 is. We know the Vatican exists. Now watch this next one. The Vatican's been in existence for 1,600 years. So watch this now. Verse Let's see, where was I? Okay, verse 11. Verse 11. No, verse 10. Verse 10. Sorry. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen. One is, now watch this now, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. So the 7th horn is a kingdom that's going to be short-lived. A world power that's going to be short-lived. In other words, it'll be younger than all the rest of the kingdoms. So Babylon lasted, I don't know, maybe 1,000 years, right? Then the Greeks and the Medes and the Persians lasted at least 300 years, 400 years, and Greece still exists, right? And Persia is now Iran, right? They still exist. Then came the Greek Empire. The Greek Empire lasted 300 or 400 years, and they still exist. The Greeks still exist. So Greece is an old country. Persia is an old country, right? I mean, these are old countries. Even though it used to be Babylon is now Iraq. That's an old country, right? And then, of course, you still got, Media, which is Medes, is Russia. Old country. Been around a long time, Russia. It wasn't always called Russia. It was called Median at first. Europeans. Eastern Bloc. Okay? Now, the Pope been around 1,600 years. Well, let me ask you. How long has the United States officially been a country? How long has the United States officially been a certified, world-accepted, recognized country? 300 years? 400 years? 1,000 years? How long has that been around? Well, put it this way. Next July 4th, it will be its 250th birthday. Now, when you're talking about 1,600 years, 250 years, can we say that's a short space? Now, look, China's been around 5,000 years. Mizraim, which is now called Egypt, thanks to Alexander, has been around 5,000 years. The Anglo-Saxons, who are British, they've been around at least, I would say at least 800 years, right? Then there's the Alemanni, which is Germany. They've been around at least 1,000 years. Then, of course, France, the Franks, they've been around at least 1,000 years. But the United States is not even 250 years old. And it's with the big boys. It's peeing always with the big dogs. Now, it's interesting. We had a very nice guy. We hired a guy to help us around, show us around Medellin, show us some places where we could just feel the vibe, right? Nice girl, very nice girl, showing me and my wife the vibe, telling us all about the stuff, right? So we sat down, we had lunch together that day. And she was comparing Colombia to the United States. And she was saying, Colombia has 10 different political parties. Right? She said, that's what a democracy looks like. That's what she said. She said, Colombia has 10 different political parties. That's what a democracy looks like. She said, you live in the United States. You only got 2 parties and you don't even have a democracy. The people don't even vote. And she's right. She said the what do they call it? The something college decides your president. Right? You can vote if you want, but the whatever that thing is, something college decides the president. So you don't even have a democracy. Right. Thank you. 2 shots fired. The electoral college. And that's true. No matter what you vote, it's the electoral college that decides who the president is. She said, you don't even have a democracy. So then I said, you know what? You're right. I said, but let me ask you, is the Vatican a democracy? I said, is the Vatican a democracy? She was shocked. Like that threw her off. She's like, wait. Vatican's a religion. I said, wait. I know it's a religion now. I said, but isn't it also a government? And she didn't know what to do. She said, I'm a Catholic. She said, I'm a strong. I said, okay, I'm just asking you a question. I said, is it a government or isn't it? You heard of the Concordat in 1929. She said, she has a lot of impact. I know Pope Pius, that she knew all about it. I said, so then you know that the Vatican's its own country. She said, yes, it's its own country. So then I said, and it has borders, right? Like a country. She said, yeah, but we don't get mad at people that cross. I didn't say that. See, she was getting caught up in the narratives of today. And I said, no, I'm not talking about crossing borders. I just asked you, do they have a country and do they have a border? She said, yes, they do. Okay. And I said, is not the Pope the head of the Vatican? She says, I ain't asked you that. I said, is the Pope the head of the Vatican? She said, yes. I said, so the Pope is the head of a country that's not a democracy. She said, but people vote for the Pope. I said, no. I said, archbishops vote for the Pope. She said, that's right. Archbishops that represent all the countries. I said, wait. You're here in Colombia, right? She said, yeah. I said, you just said you're a staunch Catholic. She said, yes, I am. I said, but you don't vote for your cardinal don't care what your vote is, right? Your cardinal goes to Rome and decides with other cardinals who the next Pope. You ain't got no say in that. She said, that's true. So she finally admitted. She said, okay, it's not a democracy. I said, okay. That's all I wanted you to know, that the United States is not a democracy and the Vatican is not a democracy. So that the United States and the Vatican don't have democracies. She said, that's true. I said, okay. I said, now, is not the Pope the most powerful man on the planet? And she had to think about that. I said, wait, let's think about this. I said, he's the head of the entire Catholic Church, right? And he's the head of his government. There's no other person on the planet that has that. And she said, okay. I said, yeah. So I said, you're a Catholic. I said, suppose you became a senator in Colombia and a bill came up that was against the Catholic Church. Would you vote for it based on your religious belief? She said, I would represent the people. I said, oh, so you would vote against it? She said, no, I'm a Catholic. I said, oh, so you stand for your church, right? She said, yeah. I said, okay. I didn't get no argument with her. Everything I said, she agreed with. So then I said, okay, so in the most powerful court in the United States, which is the most powerful country in the world, there are 9 Supreme Court justices, and 6 of them are Roman Catholic. So if something came against the Catholic Church, they would have to vote their conscience, wouldn't they? And I ended I didn't say nothing else. But I say that to say the United States is a subset, a daughter, in fact, an image to the beast. The beast is one-man government, no democracy, no voting. This is him. He runs his government and his church. He's the head of all Christianity because it's out of Rome that Christianity came, starting with Constantine. They just celebrated the Council of Nicaea. That's how it all started. The United States has a president that's the head of the government, and he's the head of the Christian nationalist movement in America that is trying to spread all over the earth. It's an image to the beast. So you have the image to the beast of Revelation chapter 11 already formed. Whosoever would not worship the image of the beast, in other words, worship Christianity and follow the United States lead, should be killed. Revelation chapter 11. Look at Venezuela. Look at Chile. Look at Nicaragua. Look at Iraq. Look at Afghanistan. Look at Gaza. We can keep going. Revelation chapter 11. Not 11. Revelation chapter 13. By the way, remember what it said in Daniel chapter 8? It said, he shall rule, but not by his own power. Revelation chapter 13. And I want you to notice when we talked about it being one beast, Babylon, wait, Revelation 13, beginning at verse 1 and going from verse 1 down to let's read verse 2, verse 1 and 2. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 and 2. Okay, watch this beast. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his heads were the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. He shall rule, but not by his own power, the dragon's power. Now, notice these animals: leopard, bear, lion, right? Leopard, bear, lion. Those are the animals representing the three kingdoms in Daniel chapter 7. The same three: Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, and Rome. Same four. But Rome, we know the little horn came out of Rome. But the others, the lion is Babylon, the bear is Media and Persia, and the leopard is the Greeks. So it's one empire with different divisions taking a turn at power. See? So it's all Babylon. And then later, Revelation chapter 13, verse 11, and verse 11 says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So it's a lamb-like beast that's really a dragon. The lamb represents Messiah, but this person is only fronting like they represent Messiah, which is Christianity. Fronting like it represents the Bible. Fronting like it represents Messiah. If somebody said, do you believe in Jesus? You know what I would say? Which Jesus you talking about? The one in the Bible. The one in the Bible? Oh, yeah, I believe in him. I just don't believe in that Christianity white one that you believe in. That's a different one. Praise the Most High. So, the lamb-like beast that's really a dragon, that's the one that must continue a short space, that's really the United States, that's really an image. Wait a minute. Verse 13 and 14. Actually, let me start at verse 12. It's the same dragon as Rome. It's the same dragon as the first beast, right? So wait, Revelation 13, verse 12. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him. The word before him is in his presence. So in other words, the Vatican is supervising the United States. Of course, you won't know that because in Revelation 17, the Bible showed us that the woman was riding the beast in the wilderness, which means in secret. So nobody really understands that the Pope controls the White House. And it's no coincidence that this last Pope, and unless somebody kill him, he's going to be the last Pope, is from Chicago in the United States. Come on, y'all. Is that coincidence? Revelation chapter 13, verse 12. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. How does he do that? Through Christianity. Christianity has spread all over the earth. Every colonized nation is Christian or Muslim or Judaism, like the Amalekites. That's the exception. The only three that have not, there's only three nations on the planet that have not been colonized by Europeans. Only three: China, Korea, and Japan. They have not been colonized. You know why? Because they're the same Neanderthals. The Neanderthals from Europe was trying to colonize the Neanderthals from Asia, and they couldn't do it. China wasn't having it. Neither was Korea, because Korea was colonized by the Japanese, and the Japanese wasn't having it. See, all the rest of Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, which is South China really, but it's a different thing, right? Then you got Malaysia, Indonesia. They're all colonized by Europeans. Philippines, all of them. Okay, India, all colonized by Europeans. The difference between their colonization and our enslavement is they weren't taken in chains in slave ships and made into chattel slavery. We're the only people in the earth's history that happened to. That's why we're different than everybody else on the planet. Let's keep reading. We're almost done. Verse 13. And he doeth great wonders, that's the United States, doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And deceiveth them, craft, there it is again. Deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So the United States is the image of Rome. It has already shown you it will kill anybody that doesn't bow to it. Look this week. Let's get rid of CNN. Let's kill Marjorie Taylor Greene because she didn't like me. Let's kill all the Somalians because they come from a shithole country. Let's just take the Venezuelan oil because we can. Is it roaring or isn't it? See, but you and I, we can see it. 99% of the populace of planet Earth cannot see it because they're either under the guise of one of the three Abrahamic religions, or they're being colonized by the Europeans and don't recognize their colonization. Or they're got the mark of the beast in their forehead, which means they're Trump-tards. They're all in, baby. But the revolution is soon to come because the revolutionary Messiah is on his way. And they're not going to know what hit them, just like the people of the flood didn't know what hit them, although the signs were all around them. Isn't that ironic? The signs are all around us. The United States just took Venezuelan oil. Trump says Somalia's a shithole country and nobody gives a crap, and nobody does. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of his most staunch supporters, the bleach blonde butch body, said he's doing wrong, and he said she should not live, and everybody's trying to kill her. He don't like what CNN says about him. Buy CNN and change the narrative. Nobody actually sees that this is the beginning of the end of the empire, or what it means for that empire to end. Like, there are people that are out here. See what happens, brethren. Whenever Democrats are in power in the United States, the Republicans spend all their energy trying to convince the universe that the Democrats are devils and that, you need to vote Republican. You need to vote them out of office. And the opposite is true. Now, when Republicans are in office, the Democrats spend all their energy. And what they're trying to do is say the Democrats will help you. Republicans won't. Republicans say Republicans will help you. And they're both lying devils from the same Asatan. But nobody sees that because they're not looking at this. They're not paying attention to this. And even if they are, the brainwashing of Christianity says, well, we're just New Testament Christians. And then, of course, Islam believes they came from Moses, though they came 4,000 years after Moses with an Arab man. And, of course, Judaism claims to be the bloodline, has no blood ties, and comes from Europe as Amalekites. But everybody's believing this because the whole earth follows after the beast. It shall subdue the whole earth and break it in pieces. And we're watching it in real time. And nobody sees it except those of us following the Bible and the Bible only. Read your Bible, brethren. Pray to your Heavenly Father. Let Him guide you and direct your paths in the way you should go. And none of this will affect you. Always pray. Like I said, we like it here in Colombia. It's cool, man, because we can get back to the United States like 3 or 4 hours. We could be in many cities. We'll see our kids, everything. Everything good, man. Cost is less than half the United States. Less than half. So whatever, if you need 5,000-6,000 a month to make it, you probably need 2 or 3 in Colombia. Not even lying. Less than half. But we wouldn't just pack up and move. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart. And lean not to your own understanding. In all thy ways, acknowledge Him. And He shall direct your paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear Yahweh and depart from evil. So we got to consult our Father. And let our Father show us what our next move is. You should do the same. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May He cause His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. and may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, Israelite nation.